I have got myself another quite vintage piece of hardware for my collection. In this case it's an old Atari 2600, but this is the earliest model, so it's called the Atari Video Computer System, or VCS. These were quite expensive, but I bought a completely refurbished and overhauled system. Fantastic and extremely professionally done. The internals of the joystick have been replaced, so it's because these are quite notorious to break down, and this is completely functional again. The system have been cleaned completely. All the different switches have been changed, cleaned out. There's a cartridge of Pac-Man, but I plugged in these cords because it's a quite tight fit for the controller ports, so I'm afraid to break the soldering on the inside. So this is to not stress the contacts, but it's been modified with composite video and audio, and also S-video. S-video is probably the best mod you can get to this system, as a lot of the newer systems you actually can get RGB modification. This is the 6-switch model produced between 1978 and 1980. Usually there is a sticker on the inside which tells the production year and month, but it were faded, so it were not possible to actually see it. On the other side here there's some support number, serial number, but they also, when modified the system, said that he removed the RF part as it's more or less useless now, obsolete, and there was a channel switch here, but I don't know if you can see it, poor focus, but he also implemented a stereo modification, as well. There's a few games that take advantage of it, but some games actually have more or less stereo sound implemented, but this feature was not released for the system, so he also made the channel switch into a stereo and mono switch instead. So this is one of the earliest models. The absolutely earliest model have a lot thicker plastic on the side, and it's more rounder on the edge here. This is more angled, square-like, but well, the older one were more round and also a lot heavier because it were made before some FCC regulations in the US, so it were not classified as a computer system but something else, and that required it to have a lot of RF shielding inside, so it were quite heavy because of all the aluminum to shield. I also got some accessories for the system. Wireless joysticks. These are ridiculously large, as you can see. Some quite difference there. Quite bulky to hold. I have this long antenna. Uses a 9-volt battery. And also, when I turn it on, I can actually hear the buzzing, some buzzing sound in the surround system in the receiver here. So it emits quite a lot of RF noise. He tried to overhaul these as well, but the internals were actually quite different than this one, so the new circuit board were not electronically compatible with this one, even though we tried to modify it to work. And it also comes with this base station, remote control joystick that you connect to the system, which have this long telescopic antenna. You interconnect the power. You don't have two power supplies. You connect this into the system and the power supply into the base control unit for the wireless joysticks. And also have some pedal controllers for breakout or driving games, etc. We also bought this cartridge called the Harmony cartridge, which is SD card cartridge for the Atari, and I've loaded this with all known official ROM files and some homebrew games as well. I also have this controller here for a game called Star Riders, and I also got my hands on the later model of the Atari 2600, which is the Atari 2600, nicknamed 2600 Junior, which is cost reduced production. They actually made these up until 91 or something like that, so it's actually a quite long-lived system, even though it also got crude graphics, one of the earliest gaming systems, and still it produced over 10 years. As you can see, it's a lot smaller than the older one, but also quite not the best quality either, but it works. I've also got this shopping bag of different cartridges and games. Most games for this system are actually quite cheap. You get it for $100 a piece. And if you buy a lot on eBay, you can actually get like 200 games for $100 or less. These text label games are one of the oldest ones, produced in the 70s. This is a game called Outlaw. There's the famous Space Invaders, later made because it have a picture label. Also exists quite a lot of weird games, like this one called Sneak and Peek, which is basically hide and seek. No wonder that this system caused the famous video game crash of 1993 in the US, because it were produced so many games, and in the end the market just drowned in a lot of crappy titles, which ended up that no one bought games anymore for it, and the market just plumbed to a halt. And in the US, the NES resurrected it in 1985. Here in Europe, no one really noticed much to it, because most people bought a Commodore 64 or other home computer system. This is also first action-adventure game called Adventure. Quite simple game. Yes. Mario Brothers. A lot of classic games actually came to this system. There's one called Name This Game. Mountain King. Yeah. I think that's just about it. Thanks for watching.